and he brought some classic Mopar muscle to show us. Eric, welcome and thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Give us the quick rundown on the car you brought with you today.
It's a 1968 Dodge Coronet 440, and it has a 440 engine, 727 automatic transmission, 8 3/4 rear end with 355 gears.
So 1968, what does it mean to have a Coronet 440?
So the 440 model in 68 would have the 440 emblem on the quarter panel, and the side molding is specific to the 440 model, and there were a few other options that were very common, including the vinyl top.
How many other trim levels were there in 68?
So there were 5 trim levels in 68 for the Coronet lineup. You had the Coronet Deluxe, Coronet 440, Coronet 500, Super B, and Coronet RT.
Have you done anything to the car to make it a little unique to you?
And one thing that I liked was the Magnum 500s and white letter tires. So those wouldn't have come with the car brand new. The 440 would have came with steel wheels and wheel covers or hubcaps. But these Magnum 500s are the same style as the Hemi cars and RTs and Super Bs. So
excellent. Let's take a quick walk around the car and see what else we can find. A quick history lesson. In 1968, the United States government told auto manufacturers all cars produced January 1st and on would have to have either reflectors or side marker lights to indicate travel of the vehicle. Amber in the front, red in the back. Now, Chrysler didn't think it was necessary and didn't have the time or the money to come up with a reflector or marker light for each individual car, so they used the same one across the board. This one. Now, why am I telling you that? Because if you ever see one of these marker lights on a Dodge or a Plymouth, you know it's a 1968 year model, because in 1969 they had some changeover in the design studio, and those guys demanded that each car have their own reflector. So if you didn't know before, you do now. Here we are at the front of the car. Eric, tell us the things that make this a 68 Coronet 440 front end.
So in 68, the front middle section is rectangular and one piece. The 440 model had an unpainted grille and had the Dodge emblems. The Coronet 500 had a painted black grille with no Dodge emblems, but it did have a 500 emblem in the middle. Super B was painted black with the same Dodge letters, and the RT was painted black with no Dodge letters, but it had a big RT emblem off to the right side.
And a little fact about this grille. Though it doesn't look very aerodynamic by today's standards, it was actually the most aerodynamic offering Dodge had, and because of that, you'll see this very grille in 1969 Dodge Charger 500s used in NASCAR. Now here we are in the back of the car. Eric, give us the same thing as you did on the front. What makes this a Coronet 440 from 68?
So in 1968, the finish panel was unique to other years and product lines, so this was always one of my favorite for sure. So the 440 model had the Dodge emblems in this area of the finish panel, and same as the Super B. So the Super B looked like this, but it did have a Super B emblem on the right side. Coronet 500 and the Coronet RT had a black filler panel with silver vertical stripes, and that was really neat looking. The taillight housings were a little bit different, but I always loved the 68s.
And it was this tail panel that led you to buying this car, correct?
Yeah, so 1999 I was out in Kansas for work, and I was just, every night I would take the rental car just driving out in the country, and just driving along I just caught the back end of this car in a driveway of a farm, and so whipped the car around, drove in, and it was what I thought, and it was parked right next to a 68 Charger, red with a white top. And he tried to sell me both, but at the time couldn't take both. But same color combination and everything. This was in a lot better shape, so I'll never forget that for sure.
Now that Eric's walked us around the car, a quick lesson on VIN decoding. The first 5 places the VIN of this car read WH23F. The first letter tells you what kind of car it was. W stood for Coronet. The second letter tells you what price class. This one has an H, which means highest price class because the Coronet was towards the top of the Dodge product line. The next 2 places tell you what kind of top the car had. 23 stands for hardtop. Also means it's a no-post car. So there's no post between the front seat and back seat. In the last spot, the F tells us what engine it was, and that stood for a 318 2-barrel. Okay, now we have the hood popped. And as we learned earlier, this car came with a small block, but now has a big block in it. A quick lesson on how to identify the two. On a small block, the distributor will always be located in the back of the engine, closest to the firewall. On a big block, like this one, the distributor is located up front, closest to the radiator. Eric, tell us a little bit more about this big block.
Sure thing. It's a 440 bored 30 over. It has a comp cam and a 10-to-1 forged pistons, aluminum Edelbrock RPM heads and intake, and an Edelbrock 800 CFM carburetor. TTI headers are 1 7/8 primaries.
And that combination gives this car a classic muscle car sound. So here we are, riding around in Eric's Coronet. And I'm going to be honest with everybody, when I was taking pictures of the car and we were doing the walk around film shots, I really thought this thing was going to be a big lumbering beast down the road. That's not the case. The car has a surprisingly good road feel. Yes, it has body roll, but it's a big bodied steel carbon 68. That being said, it's really pretty good. Eric, have you done anything to the suspension to improve it so it doesn't give you that lumbering giant feel?
Well, the torsion bars and leaf springs, those are factory Hemi style equipment, so it's factory engineered, but 1968. But so it is a stiffer ride, but it's meant to handle the extra power.
Yeah, factory engineered, but for a Hemi, that still means it's a performance car.
Yep.
So another thing is the car accelerates very well as we just pulled out of that roundabout. I mean, it has no problem snapping your neck back. When he drops on it, as you could tell right there, which is surprising again for how big this car is. Another thing I noticed while I'm sitting here, and you guys, the viewers, may have noticed while we were doing shots from around the car, is it has a Power Tour sticker across the windshield, but not just the standard Power Tour windshield sticker, it has the long haul gang. Eric, do you mind telling our viewers what that all means?
Yeah, so the Hot Rod Power Tour is put on by Hot Rod Magazine every year. It's about a 1,500 mile road trip, and back in 2014 we started at T-Max Dragway just outside of Charlotte, North Carolina, and that was the greatest road trip. We went through the Appalachian Mountains and up through Ohio, Michigan, Indiana, Illinois. We ended up at the Wisconsin Dells, and it was a great road trip. Met a lot of people. A few of us from the club went the whole way, and getting to the start and coming back from the finish all together is about 3,000 miles, and the car ran great and it was comfortable. And
so how many miles have you done with the car since restoring it?
About 32,000.
32,000, and then how long has the car actually been restored?
That was summer of 05, Mopar Nationals. It was 1 week after getting it on the road. I drove it 100 miles up to the Mopar Nationals.
That's a pretty good road test, 100 miles fresh off of restoration. Yeah. I have to say that for that many miles and having been restored that long, the car is still in phenomenal shape. You must do a fantastic job keeping up with maintenance and detailing.
Thanks, I do put a lot of time into it, clean it as much as I drive it, and
so between the time detailing and maintaining the car and the restoration, you must have a pretty patient wife and family at home.
Yeah, they are very patient. They put up with a lot of things, but and we go out for ice cream and do a lot of family things with the car too, and so we all enjoy it.
I think every car enthusiast has that patient family at home that doesn't quite get it, but that's okay, right?
Yeah, at least they put up with it.
That's fair. Well, I gotta tell you, Eric, I've been really impressed with the car. It handles great, it accelerates great, and it seems like it's just a bunch of fun for you to drive.
It is, I love it.
So here comes the section of the show I'm going to call Overdrive. We're going to ask you a couple questions to learn a little bit more about you and how you got here. So first question is, why are you passionate about this brand? What makes you love it? Why are you here? Why do you have a Dodge?
I think it goes back to when I was in grade school. My older brother is 5 years older. He was in junior high, and in high school he had quite a few cars, and I worked at an auto parts store, So I would hang out with him when I was 13, 14, 15, and a lot of the people who worked at the parts store, they all had cammed up hot rods. And this one guy had a 73 Duster 340, and he had that engine tweaked real well. It was real lopey and sharp car. Well, in '91, up near Chicago, there was a Mopar Mania. That was one of the best. That was the first time that we actually saw Superbirds and some of the more popular Mopars that we've been reading in magazines forever. And so the ride up there in that Dart was incredible. He was just hammering on it. So I'm in the back seat watching the big monster tack down by the console, and just watching him rev it up. And so I mean, he had it up to $7 grand a couple times. He actually threw an alternator belt the one time, and he just wrung it out, and it just threw you back. Great sound, and so that really was an impression on me. It left an impression, being 15 years old. And I think that's what did it. And then my brother got a '69 Charger. That was his daily driver for like 6 or 7 years. So that was a beautiful car, white, black top, black interior, and a real nice car.
So that's pretty good reason to fall in love with the brand. What is it about this specific car that makes you happy?
Well, the color combination, the body lines, the extra power, and just really all the combination of things. We grew up watching the Dukes of Hazzard. That might have had something to do with it. I love Chargers and B bodies, and so
okay, that makes. Hey, I get all that. So, if you could have one other car, what would it be?
I'd have to go with a '69 or '70 Charger, 440 with a 440 call-outs on the hood, and probably blue metallic, black interior.
Automatic or standard?
It's got to be a 4-speed, yeah, for sure.
Right, because with that car you want to row gears.
Absolutely.
Right on. And then windows up or windows down?
I'd have to say windows down, especially in an older car. It just kind of helps with the whole experience, in my opinion. You can hear the exhaust better and get the wind flowing around, and that's part of the experience, in my opinion.
I get that. I'm the same way. I'm a windows down kind of guy. A couple other notes of interest on the car are the interior. It has this white pearl sheen to it. It's actually really pretty and very different. It's one of the few cars I've seen with that interior, and it looks pretty awesome. Also, something I didn't know until we jumped in the car is it has a latch below the bench seat that holds the seatbelt in place. So if you don't have a passenger and you're driving around, it stays in place. It's not flopping all around annoying you. So that's pretty cool. Are there any other things about the car you want to add or talk about?
No, I think that covers it.
Okay, where can people find you on social media?
So on Instagram, I'm 68Red440, and Facebook, just under Eric Gebert.
Perfect. Well, thanks for your time. Thanks for watching. Make sure to write in the comment section if you want to be on the show. Follow us on Instagram. Find us on Facebook to see still pictures of this very car. Until next time.